Hey y'all, so it is a rainy, stormy day out whilst I'm driving to work, so we're going to have to see how much feedback this actually has and how horrible this video actually is. But anyway, I wanted to give you guys kind of a background of my individual search for a home. So, I guess it's been about a year and a half, almost 2 years now, that I was hired by the people that I currently work for. And part of their idea, because I live a little more than an hour away from work, and I'm kind of, the maintenance man for emergencies and everything else, was that I, as soon as possible, move into the valley to live there so that I'm a lot closer and available for emergencies. So we began looking for a home in the valley. At first, we got told by the banks that because even though I was a handyman and now I'm working for someone as a handyman, it was a different business, so I had to work for, I think at the time it was like 60 or 90 days, and before we could apply for a loan. And then my wife switched jobs and joined us over here. And again, the process kind of started all over. We finally got pre-approved for a loan, and we thought it was a great amount for a home. And so we started hunting all over the valley and found out the amount that we thought that was a great amount for a home was about a half to about a third of what we actually needed for a home. Now our stipulations, they were kind of stringent, kind of built up a little bit, because we wanted more than an acre, so that we could have animals on it, so that we could have chickens, horses, maybe a horse every once in a while, maybe a cow, maybe some pigs, things like that. We wanted to be able to do things like that. We also wanted to be able to have people over, camp out in our yard, if they so chose, family members for a couple of nights, and then pack up and go back home or whatever, but be able to have those family gatherings or those reunions of everyone to come up and say hi. We wanted to be able to be close to work so that we weren't having to drive the same amount of distance to get to work but still be in the valley. And that was initially it. So we began the process of trying to find a home and trying to find out what was out there, or if we could actually get into anything. Like I said, we found out that about half, we were approved for about half to maybe a third for the houses that fell into that category. Oh, we also wanted a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So I wanted a master bedroom. I didn't care necessarily the size, but I wanted my own bathroom off of it. And then I wanted a bedroom to do YouTube videos, because I've got 2 channels growing. And I wanted a bedroom for my daughter, and I wanted her to kind of have her own bathroom. And I wanted to be able to maybe grow the house, or maybe be able to do stuff around the house. So, those are kind of the things that we started looking for. We couldn't find anything like that. So we found land for reasonably cheap. Well, I shouldn't say cheap, but for a price which we thought we could afford. So we found land all over that we thought we could afford, and we ended up talking to a modular home person to be able to get a modular home put on there. And we thought, since we're doing a modular home and we're going to be saving some extra money, what we would also like to add to our kind of list of stipulations is we wanted to have a basement, because we would have to already dig almost the basement out to pour the foundation for the home. We thought, why not finish it out and go ahead and make it a basement? It didn't need to be, very special. It didn't need to have a lot of things in it. We were expecting it to be a wide open space currently and things like that. But we added that. So then we started going to these properties that were for sale, and they had so many different CCNRs. Things like, these are rules for the homeowners association has put out, or rules that the area and people around there have put out. So we have things like there are no modular homes allowed. You have to do stick built on site. You have things like you can't have chickens. You can have one horse that is broke, and that was it. You couldn't even break your horse on your property. You had things like your dog had to be on a leash even if it was on your property. You had things like, my four-wheelers and such. They could not be visible by any neighbors or anyone driving by. My RVs that I have, the two of them, they would fall under that same stipulation, whereas they could not be visible by anybody driving by or any of my neighbors. Let's see. There was one also that said no trees on the property may be removed except for those immediately to build your house and to get your driveway in. There was another one that said your animals could never leave your home. I could make and probably will. I'll probably compile a list of all these different CCNRs that I've seen and do another rant about those as well. But, there were some crazy stipulations. And it was wild. I was just telling my wife that she could go ahead and open up the pop. They were some crazy stipulations, weren't they, Monica?
You forgot about the rock front.
Oh yeah. No, like I said, we're gonna get together and write down all these different crazy stipulations and do a video about them as well. But so anyway, we couldn't find. We finally drew up and got the house that we wanted, and we felt like we could spend about $100,000 on land and still be able to afford to put this house on there. And so we hunted and hunted and hunted and couldn't find anything that would let us build that for $100,000 in the valley. So we finally I mean, we were both kind of distraught and kind of going, well, we'll just keep our eyes out. Maybe something is going to happen. And then my mind, I kept on saying, you know, it would be perfect if some farmer wanted to sell the corner of his property to me so that I could just live there at the corner of his property in the middle of nowhere and we'd be happy. And so we kept on hunting, and Monica did a lot of it. She spent a lot of time on the phone, on the computer, doing search algorithms to try and find it for us. And whilst she was doing that, one of her co-workers, underlings, whatever you want to call it, came up to her and kind of said, hey, you know, I've been trying to sell the second half of my property and no one's able to buy it. It's fallen through a couple times. I would love it if you guys were living next to me because I like you guys, I know you guys, and I could live with that. We're out in the middle of nowhere. So if you guys want to see if and how you can buy the second half of my property, let's go for it. And we came up with a reasonable price, we thought, and he agreed to it. So we started hunting, and it turns out the county doesn't let you split your property to sell if one portion of the property is going to be less than 2.5 acres. Well, his portion of the property that he was going to keep was going to be just under or just above, right there at 2 acres. So he wasn't going to be able to split it. So he came up with paying his neighbor to increase to sell him the land that was unusable between the two properties. And that would give him the 2.5 acres that he needed. During this process, while we're kind of going back and forth and trying to figure this stuff out, we go to the county again, and the county says, well, actually, here in a little bit, we are going to vote to change that from that area from a residential 2.5 acre lot allowed to an agricultural 30 acre average density. So that would mean that we wouldn't be able to split his property because his property was not 60 acres that he was trying to sell total. It was more like 11 and a half acres or something like that. And so, again, the county was kind of putting in a roadblock right there for us, and we weren't going to be able to purchase the property or half the property because of this voting that was going to happen to change the zoning out there. So we then came up with the idea, let's do kind of a reverse mortgage. And we were going to go ahead and purchase the whole of the property and then give life rights to the person who was selling the property so that he could have access to his half for his entire life that he wanted, which he was fine with. He was like, okay, yeah, that works, I can do that. And then this pandemic happened, and we ended up getting laid off. Now, we both qualified for unemployment, and we both ended up making a lot more on unemployment than we did in our jobs. But, and we both did go back to our jobs. And so one even with a raise went back to her job. Sheesh, getting a raise. Anyway, so because we were unemployed, the bank said, oh, you're not pre-qualified for that amount anymore. We actually need to start the whole process over again, which we knew we'd have to start the process. But we've got to wait 30 to 60 days again, because according to the bank, it counts it as a brand new job. So, in that, we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting, and we're doing work and everything. And then the rants that you see that I started this channel with happened on my parents' property. And so we went and got a lawyer and spent a lot of money there to try and help my parents out. And while speaking to the lawyer, we found out that if we were to take and do what we had thought, essentially, I think my phone just froze. Essentially, we're gonna have to see if how this video went. My phone froze for a while there. But essentially what we were going to have to do is kind of the same thing that our neighbors are going to do, or that compromise that we've came up with, is we're going to purchase the whole of the property, kind of like we were thinking of doing before. And then we are going to lease him the northern portion of the property that he wants to keep. So we'll say on the lease, like everything north of road 33,000 or whatever it is. And we're going to take and lease him everything north of that for $250 a year for 50 years. So, I mean, he is right now late 60s, something like that. Early 60s, late 60s, something like that. And so, hopefully what we're thinking is we've done a long enough period of time that it's never going to be an issue with it at the end. But what that does is the banks will then touch it because the whole of the property is in our name. So they'll go ahead and do the mortgage and everything for it. So we're like, okay, great. We can do it this way. I don't think we've updated because it's going to end up being the same thing, just different words on the paper. Essentially, he can do whatever the heck he wants to his part of the property until he dies, even if he takes and lights a match at the very end and burns it all down and whatever. But he'll have access to do anything and everything he wants, and that's what he wanted. That'll change everything into our name so that we'll be paying taxes and everything on it. So it's kind of essentially close. Sorry about that break in the middle for some reason. My camera decided that 19 minutes was a long enough video and ended there. So anyway, it's going to, as I was saying, it's going to be the same visually and verbally, but written a little different on paper so that banks and lawyers and such will touch it and won't, stay away from it with a 20-foot pole. But we haven't had a chance yet to talk to him about it because we're still in the middle of all this, trying to get our loan redone, trying to get everything reset back up after all this pandemic, and trying to get things squared back away with it all. Now, it's been a long process. Knock on wood, we are thinking that we're coming to the head of starting the actual purchase of the property, the actual building of the basement and placing of the modular home and such like that. But we shall have to see. Anyway, I wanted to give you guys kind of that lengthy update, or that update there, which if you see my other channel, Hitchcock.Handyman, I throughout my videos have kind of been explaining that to people. And so what I'm going to be doing is kind of giving you guys a more lengthy update here. And this channel is so that I can kind of get things and talk about things and rant about things and keep things going in that direction. Basically have this being a discussion channel, hey, what's going on in my life type channel. And we shall see how and where it goes. When more people, I should say, start subscribing, maybe they'll suggest that the channel goes in a different direction. This one I'm going to try and kind of keep fluid and keep moving so that it stays an open channel, an open discussion, more of a fluid channel. Anyway, I wanted to thank you guys very much for tuning in today, and you have a blessed day.